Okay, so today we're going to discuss the last part of this PowerPoint. It's only two very short slides. Then we'll go to elements of a short story. Ya Sater. Mansour, why are you raising your hand? Mansour? Yes, darling.
I just raised my hands to answer.
Answer what? I didn't ask you anything yet.
Oh.
Okay. So today we're talking about the phrasal verbs, prepositional verbs, aka prepositional verbs. Not last time, 3 classes ago, let's say 3 days ago, we differentiated between the phrasal verbs and the prepositional verbs. What is the main difference between phrasal verbs and prepositional verbs? What is the main difference between them? Who can answer? The main difference. Masa, what is the main difference between phrasal verbs and prepositional verbs?
Phrasal verbs, it is like when you can put
Okay, let me take it step by step with you. So phrasal verbs and prepositional verbs, they consist of verbs and prepositions or particles.
prepositions, yes.
طيب, what's the main difference between both of them?
Phrasal verbs, you can put you can cut the sentence.
Yes,
and
you can
put
cut the phrase, yeah. And
yes, and put a preposition in it.
No, and put a subject between the verb and the particle, right?
Yes.
Okay, while in the
sorry.
prepositional verbs, you can do that?
In the prepositional verbs, you can't cut.
You can't divide them. Lovely.
Yeah.
So basically, phrasal verbs and prepositional verbs, they are the same thing. The only two differences, there's a minor difference and there's a main difference. The main difference is that you can divide the phrasal verb and put a subject in the middle between the verb and the particle, while in the prepositional verbs, you can't divide the verb from the preposition. They're stuck together. Otherwise, you won't have a clear meaning for the phrase. طيب, who can read this slide for us? بدي معتز السلخي. Can you read it for us? Phrasal verbs?
Yes. A phrasal verb is made up of 2 parts. Main verb, words such as in, out, up, down, and off. When used as a part of a phrasal verb, they are called particles.
Can you give us the examples?
Yes. Example. The airplane took off. The girl looked up. He ran away.
Good. Sometimes a phrasal verb has an object. Yajat Hamza, can you read the 2 last examples?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I put on my coat. Walked in the door.
They walked in the door. طيب. Let's go quickly to the question. Who wants to do the first one? Zain Yunus, can you solve the first one?
I watched the airplane off into the sky.
I watched the airplane takes off in the sky. The second one, yeah, the second one. Rakan, can you do the second one?
Yes, miss.
Yalla habibi, do the second one.
They were walking away the street.
Let me help you. They were walking down the street. Yep. They were walking down the street. Lovely, Rakan. Thank you so much. Let's go to Karim Abder. Can you do the third one?
Yes.
Yalla.
My mom turned on the TV after we misbehaved.
When you misbehave, your mom reward you and turn on the TV or turn off. You were misbehaving, ya Karim. Let's go to number 4. Number 4, Maryam Khater.
Please try to put on with the angry old man.
Okay, so to be patient, you put on or you put up?
Put up.
Put up. There you go. Please try to put up with the angry old man. Okay, who can do number 5? Number 5, Zaina Abu Harb.
Yes, teacher.
Yalla, mommy, do number 5.
I had to look my books if I want them to stay in a good condition. To take
To look.
after. To look after.
Yep, to look after my books if I want them to stay in good condition. And of course, none of you do that. طيب, let's go to, I need a young man. Omar Zidan. Omar Zidan, can you do number 6?
Yes.
Go ahead.
They wanted to listen to some music, so they turned the radio on.
They turned the radio on. Lovely. Number 7, بدي خالد. خالد مطر.
We don't want to swim today, so we put away our swimming suits.
So we put away our swimming suits. طيب شباب. So if we go to the first slide here, in the past 2 days, we talked about the simple past, and we said that in the past simple, there are 2 types of verbs, regular, irregular. Regular, you add ed to the verb. Irregular, the whole structure changes. We have the simple present. In the singular cases, we add s, es, or ies. It depends on the spelling of the word. In the plural, or I or you, we don't not put any thing. We keep the verb as is. عندنا الpast continuous أو الpast progressive اللي هو الverb to be, was or were, plus the ing form of the verb. We talked about برضو 2 very important words, when and while. We said when we have the word when, it is, let's see, followed by a short action that we use simple past for. While the word while, it is followed by a long action. That's why we use the past continuous or the past progressive. بعدين عندنا the present continuous, which also the verb to be, are, is, am, preceded by or followed by an ing form of the verb. Last thing, we talked about the phrasal verbs and prepositional verbs, but since we took them in a PowerPoint alone, I did not put a lot of slides in this grammar revision PowerPoint. So we have phrasal verbs, prepositional verbs. They are exactly the same, except phrasal verbs, it's a verb plus particle. Prepositional, verb plus preposition. And in the phrasal verb, we can divide the phrasal verb and put a subject in between, while the phrasal verbs, prepositional verbs, we cannot do that. طيب, I'm gonna lower all your hands. And before we start with the new PowerPoint, I want to ask you if you have any questions. If you have any questions, raise your hand regarding this PowerPoint, regarding any of these topics. No? طيب. Let's proceed to the next PowerPoint, which is elements of a short story. The elements of a short story. What are the elements of a short story? Who can answer this question for me? Rayan Hamid, what are the elements of a short story? Can you remember any of them?
The setting.
The setting, what else?
Character.
Characters, good.
Climax.
The climax is in what?
In the pyramid.
It's in the pyramid, yes. What the plot? Yes. So we have setting, the characters, and the plot. There are still 2 more. Let's see someone else if anyone remembers. Jad, do you remember what are the other 2 elements? The last 2 elements? The point of view and
point of view وآخر شيء
نسيت. عادي. We all forget. عادي. طيب معتز السلخي, do you remember?
Yes.
معتز السلخي.
Conflict.
The conflict. Great. So we have the setting, we have the characters, we have the plot, we have the point of view and the theme, and we have the type of conflict. Now, without any of these elements, we cannot have a story. Let's read this slide. Who would like to read it for us? I want someone who did not participate at all. Muhammad Mansour, can you read this slide for us?
Yes. Setting the time and place a story takes place.
In, right?
Characters, the people, animals, or creatures in a story.
Good.
The plot, the series of events that make up a story.
Good.
And the last thing, a conflict, a problem, or struggle between two people, things, or ideas.
And there's the fifth element, which is the point of view, the types of narration. Okay, the points of view, the types of narration. But let's go to the setting. We said the time and place, the story takes place. Who would like to read this slide for us? I want to, wait, I can't see my my participants. Joanna, can you read this slide for us?
Of course. Okay.
Go ahead.
Setting. The setting describes where and when the story takes place. It helps build background and creates images in the mind. It helps set the tone or mood of the story.
So details can describe what?
Time of day, time of year, time in history, scenery, weather, location.
Good. If you remember, girls and boys, when we used to deal with a new story, we used to set, let's say, the mood. Remember, to set the mood? I told you sometimes when you start reading the story, the writer tries to make you feel scared, sad, happy. The author tries to make you interested as much as possible in the story. Now, the setting set the mood for us in a perfect way. Because if the weather was, let's say if it was winter and the weather was cold and the nights were dark, you will have that sense of, let's say, excitement, maybe fear. On the other hand, if the setting was, let's say, spring with the breeze and the location, let's say, up in the hills, you'll feel a little bit happy and uplift. So the setting is very important to set the mood for us. But in the setting, we use the five senses. We use the five senses: the sight, smell, taste, feel, or touch, and sound. Why do we use them? Let's read the slide. Ya Layan Hamdan. Why do we use the five senses?
Hi, teacher.
Layan.
Hi.
Yalla.
Using the five senses, a good setting helps the reader visualize the places in the story. A good author includes descriptions of the setting using the five senses. Sight, smell.
Yes, go ahead.
Sight, smell,
taste,
feel, sound.
And sound. طيب, when we use the five senses, Ya Jad Hamza, how come it helps us visualize?
Um,
Why do we use five senses? Hey, حكينا. Why do we use five senses?
we can make an imagine in our brains.
Yes,
image of the character of the story
inside your head. It makes you see things. It makes you feel things. It makes you even sometimes smell. For example, the smell of the brewing coffee. I immediately, since I'm addicted to coffee, I immediately imagine the smell of the coffee coming out of the cup, you know, in the morning. So the five senses are very important to draw a picture inside your head and makes you live the story. But let's go to characters. Yeah, people. Every story needs characters, and characters, whether they were people, animals, or creatures. We have two main types of characters. What are they? Razan, what are the two main types of characters in the story, in each story, any story? We have the good character and we have the bad character. What do we call them? Good and bad.
Protagonist is the good one.
Great.
And the antagonist
is the bad character. طيب, I see a lot of hands, so I'm again trying to manage participation. So Razan said the protagonist is the good guy, the good character. And the antagonist is the bad guy or the bad force. For example, if we have character versus nature, so nature is the antagonist, let's say. It's the bad force in the story. طيب, let's go to characterization. Characterization يا ديما الصبح. I want you to read it for us. يلا دومي.
Okay. Characterization is the way in which an author shows the personality of a character. Characterization is the technique writers use to make characters come to life.
The more I describe the person for you, the more you imagine that person. For example, I have someone in my life that I really, really hate and I really don't like, and I'm trying to tell you a story or let's say an incident that took place with that person. And I start to tell you, no, she has creepy eyes, she has very pale skin, she's very mean, she's angry all the time. You start to imagine that person in your head. You start to draw a picture. And sometimes when you see that person, you go like, you know what, Miss Fatima, you were right about her. I just imagined her that she would look this way. It happens sometimes. طيب, let's go to direct and indirect characterization. We talked about it last time. Maryam Khater, can you read this slide for us? Khater?
Direct,
Yalla.
yes. Direct characterization. Tell the reader the personality of the character. Direct characterization is obvious to the reader and spells it right out. The patient boy and the quiet girl were both will behave and did not disobey their mother.
Disobey their mother. Good. When I give you direct characterization, خلاص, I force you to imagine a certain thing about this character. But sometimes we use indirect characterization in an indirect way to give you more space to imagine that person and to come with a conclusion with that person. Adnan Shweiki, can you read this slide for us? The indirect characterization.
Indirect characterization.
Speak up, Adnan.
Indirect characterization shows things that reveal the personality of the character.
The way he speaks, yes. Thoughts,
effect on others, actions, looks.
طيب, wait. Speech, the way he speaks. Thought, the way he thinks. Effect on others. For example, when the Fathiya, Miss Fathiya, a teacher, came into the class, everybody was annoyed. What does that mean? That maybe she's mean, maybe she's angry, maybe she's aggressive. It gives you an indirect way to think about her. Actions. Whenever Miss Fathiya gets angry, she taps on the table really hard, for example. She bangs on the table. The looks. Let's say her hair is not combed properly, her clothes are stained and raggedy. It gives you an indirect, let's say, sense of her being, let's say, not clean, for example. طيب, Rayan, can you read the example here? Rayano.
The boy sat next to his sister as she poked him and teased him. He did not react. He carefully picked up her doll from the floor and placed it on her lap, saying gently, "Here you go, why don't you play with your doll?"
طيب. The boy sat next to his sister as she poked him and teased him. He did not react. He carefully picked up her doll from the floor, placed it on her lap, saying gently, "Here you go. Why don't you play with your doll?" What kind of a person this boy? Now the author did not say. The author absolutely did not say, Yajad. What kind of a person, Yajad, is that boy?
He is.
Is he an angry person?
No, he is. He likes to help others and.
He's kind. He's patient. Jana and Rand Abdurrahman, what kind of person is this boy? When is Jana? Jana
I'm here.
What kind of a person this boy?
I think he's kind of outgoing person to everybody around him, and kind.
Maybe kind, lovely. What else? Kayali, what do you think this person looks like, or what kind of personality does he have?
He likes to help
people.
What, Kayali?
He likes to help people.
He likes to help people. He's very calm and patient, right?
Yes.
Imagine, for example, Ajad Hamza with his sister sitting next to him, poking him and teasing him. He will grab the doll and hit her with it. He will not give it to her quietly. صح يا جاد؟ جاد انصدم. طب بلاش جاد. ريماس عكور.
Bye.
Jad, is that correct? If your sister was teasing you, would you be patient with her?
No, yes.
ماشي بصدق. طيب.
قولي أنا الكبير.
Okay, let me believe this. Let's go to the plot. ريماس عكور, can you please read this slide for us?
Plot, the events that take place in a story. Every story needs a plot. The plot has different parts.
This is what we were talking about a minute ago. In the plot, what are the parts of the plot? What are the parts of the plot, ya Zain Yunus? Can you start with here?
First, we have the beginning.
Or exposition, then?
Rising action.
Then?
Climax. Falling action and resolution.
And resolution. Now, these are the plot components. And the rising up in the exposition, who can read it for us? I want someone who did not participate at all. It's just reading, guys. So please raise your hand. طيب, Asil, can you start with the exposition?
Yes.
Speak up, yalla.
The start of the story before the action starts.
Here we set the mood, ya Asil, right? We mentioned the setting and a little bit of the characters. طيب, بعدين يا أسيل, what happens? Rising action?
Rising action, the series of events and conflicts in the story that lead to the climax.
That leads to the climax. Thank you very much. Malak Abu Bakr, can you keep going? The climax?
Yes. The turning point, the most intense moment, or either
mentally or
in action.
Okay, so we call it the problem. The problem of the story. Nada Tahir, can you read the following action? Nada. يلا ندا. طيب خالد مطر, can you read the following action?
Following action. All of the action which follows the climax.
Then go to the resolution, Khaled.
The conclusion, the tying together of all of the threads.
The tying together of all the threads. It's like a braid, and at the end of it, you tie it all together and you put the band, and that's it. So in the exposition, we set the mood, and we decide what kind of a story we have, and we decide the point of view, the type of narration, and a little bit of the characters, and an interesting situation. Then we go to the rising action that leads to the climax, or the problem, the main problem, where you feel interested, anxious, excited. Then we go to the falling action, where we start to solve the problem, and the resolution, when the problem is solved and you get to understand the theme or the lessons of the story. Right, let's go to the conflict. What types of conflict, or how many types of conflict do we have in stories in general? Amir Bakr, what types of conflict do we have? We have character versus what?
Character versus character, characters versus society, character versus nature, character versus self.
Self, thank you very much. So we have character versus character, when there are protagonist and antagonist fighting together. We have character versus nature, when we have like storms, hurricanes, volcanoes, tornadoes, whatever. Then we have character versus society, when there is a protagonist and the entire society is against him or her. And we have character versus self, when we have an inner conflict where the character itself can be the protagonist and antagonist. It's conflicted within itself. Right. Let's go to conflict. Who can read this for us? Conflict, yeah. Someone who did not participate. Mada, can you read this for us?
Conflict is the battle between two forces. Conflict isn't always bad. Sometimes it helps to create change.
Okay. And this one, كمان. يلا ماذا؟ Go ahead.
Conflict is the struggle between two forces in a story. Without conflict, there is no plot.
There is no exposition. There is no arising action and falling action and a problem and a resolution. There must, and we must have a type of conflict, a problem to be solved at the end of the story. Otherwise, what's the point of writing a story? طيب. Mira Kababji, can you read the types of conflict quickly?
Character versus character, characters versus nature, character versus society, character versus self.
Self. طيب, the last slide. لا سالي الرمحي, I did not hear your voice. Can you elaborate types of conflict, a deeper look? Can you read the definition of each one of them? يلا سالي.
Okay. Type of conflict, a deeper look. Character versus character, problem with another character. Character versus nature, problem with force of nature. Character versus society, problem with the laws of a group. Character versus community, society or culture. And character versus self, which is problem with deciding what to do or think. Inner conflict.
The inner conflict. طيب. So today we talked about the elements of a story. Tomorrow we will apply what we took today on one of the stories that we previously took, whether it's 11 or Summer in a Day. I want you all to lower your hands and let's vote. Lower all your hands. Good. If you want us to discuss, all Summer in a Day, raise your hand, please. You have two options. 11, all summer in a day. If you want us to discuss all summer in a day, raise your hand. Let me count the hands. Dum, dum, dum. Okay, so you have all summer in a day versus 11. The ones who want all summer in a day, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 27. And how many are we? We're 51. So, okay, majority rules. It will be all summer in a day. All summer in a day. So let me stop the share right here. And let me